So for my senior product, since I couldn't film at school and I had complications with people being able to film and all that stuff for interviews, I thought that I could interview people more on a personal level, maybe more people and that were family friends, so that they would understand and know about my experience that I have in China, and I wouldn't have to explain that to them. And during the interviews, I could be more comfortable being around people that I know instead of going out and talking to strangers. So yeah, here are the interviews with two close family friends about Chinese stereotypes. Okay, so today we're here with
Tina Clark.
and we're asking questions about Chinese stereotypes, and I'm going to be since I have background knowledge and you know that I have my mission work that I did in China, about 7.5 years I lived there, and you know that. So we're asking questions specifically about Chinese stereotypes and how I can debunk them pretty much.
Okay.
Since I know, I've done research and I know about Chinese people and I know about what it's like to live there and all that other stuff. So I just kind of want to know a little bit about your background.
Okay.
And stuff like that. So.
All right, so I'm 43 years old. I was basically raised in a military background. I was the Navy brat. So we did kind of go around everywhere. I mean, I never went to China, but I was in Cuba, New Jersey, Maine, Virginia, Maryland. When I graduated, I joined the Air Force, and I was in Idaho, and we moved to Maryland, and then we moved back here to Arizona, and I've been here for 12 years.
Okay, so you do have some knowledge of what it's like not being in this country.
Yes, when I was in the military, I did go to Spain for 2 weeks. So other than that, I mean, I don't have that much knowledge, but I've been a little bit.
I mean, you're used to being in a different country.
Yes.
Is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So, pretty much the first question I'm gonna ask is, what would be an example of a Chinese stereotype that you've heard of since you were a kid, maybe?
That they are very good in math and science.
Okay, so the reason why one of the reasons why they might be is that their language gives them an edge, I guess you could say, in math, because Sarah Lynn, this one person who majored in social sciences and psychology, she explained that a kid that's 4 years old that was speaking English, you would say they'd probably learn 15 words.
Mm-hmm.
I mean 15 numbers probably by then. Probably can count to 15 by then if they're 4. But if there's a Chinese kid, they can probably speak to 40. And the reason for that is because in Chinese they don't have to learn specific words 11 to or 20 or 30. They only have to learn 1 through 10.
Right.
So then they can just add those numbers. Their symbols would be for 11, it would just be 1 and 1. They wouldn't really have to say 11, and they wouldn't have to learn all the specific numbers that we have to. 55 would be a lot easier for them to say, for example. So that might give them a better edge in math.
Okay.
But another reason why might be because if they're a foreign exchange student and their parents are coming over from overseas, from China, then they might be more, I guess, serious towards them being good at math or specific areas in science if they want to major in good stuff in college like that.
Okay.
So that might be a reason why
Alright.
they have good math. Be good in math. So my second question is how do you think that media and television have affected Chinese stereotypes over the years?
Oh, crazy. I mean, they exacerbate everything. And I'm thinking Asian to me, because a lot of Americans just kind of group them all in Asian.
Yeah, that's true.
So Asians, make the cheapest VCRs and DVRs, and Asians can't drive well.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's all just personified in America, hardcore. I mean, it's...
Can you give me maybe a television show or a movie that they're maybe...
What is that movie?
To an extent that they're
Well, I'm trying to think of the movies what is that movie?
Like maybe like the Goonies, where like the Chinese kid's really smart in it.
Yeah.
Or like.
There you go.
Could you give me more examples?
Yeah. Or Crash. Oh, Crash, where the Asian woman, I don't know what nationality she was. Crash is like an older movie, but it was a movie about a lot of different personalities. She ended up causing an accident in California, and it was, her speak, and they like joked around about it.
Oh, okay. So they
You
were
know,
like,
with
the whole ching ching.
yes,
Wong wong.
yes.
So, I guess you could say that one of the stereotypes that you've heard of is that they have like very similar names if they're like talking about my name is Ling Ling or whatever.
Yes.
How they always make fun of that. I
Yeah.
guess. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
So-
and then all of their names end in, well, I know a lot of Vietnamese end in Nguyen,
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
Lee
because-
or whatever.
Like for example, Zhang Wei. There's like 290,000 people that share that specific name.
Oh wow.
So the reason for that is because if they have similar names, it's because their symbols. They could have like if their name is Wang Ting or something like that. In their symbol, like the Chinese symbol that they write in, it's a completely different name. But once it's transferred over in pinyin transcriptions, which means like it's translated that way, means that their symbol is changed into like a specific American name. So they might have a completely different name in their symbol, but it's said in the same way in like American, I guess you could say.
So they're all Lee, but
But
not necessarily.
yeah, that doesn't mean that they actually have the same last name.
Oh.
So that might be another reason why they are made fun of for having like similar names.
Okay.
So, my next question is, have you ever met like anyone that like fit into a Chinese stereotype? You haven't?
No. Not really. Okay, so when I was a teenager, 16 in Maryland, I worked on a naval base, and I worked at a McDonald's for 4 years, and I worked with a lot of Filipino women. There was stereotyping there, but not necessarily Chinese.
Okay.
So, but again, Asian
Yeah,
kind of goes together.
That kind of makes sense. Yeah.
So, but Filipino women, it wasn't a stereotype, but they were very hard workers. They did what they did, and they brought in food for people, and it was like buffets.
Mhm.
So I don't know if that's the same with Chinese women, but with Filipino women, they were all about their families.
Mhm.
They were all about their husbands. They were all about their kids. But no, I don't know specifically somebody that would fit any kind of stereotype. Not necessarily.
Okay. So, another question I have is, do you have any like other stereotypes that you've maybe heard of that I could like get some background on or like some information on?
Well, we used to drive to LA all the time, California,
Mhm.
and one of the big stereotypes was that Asian women were horrible drivers.
Okay, so I actually have some information on that. So, International Business Times says that around 34,000 people have died in China due to a result of like traffic accidents in like 2007, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And while the United States has 37,000. So if you think about those numbers compared to the population of each country, it's pretty astronomical how much traffic accidents they actually have compared to like how many people are in their country. And so it kind of makes sense that like they aren't bad drivers if the United States has 300 million people and Chinese have like 1.3 billion.
Yeah.
So that
Well,
kind
where
of,
does it?
it
But
kinda
where
makes
does
sense.
the, and I'm not trying to like turn the table
Yeah,
and make you the interviewee, but so where do those stereotypes come from? The bad driver, not for females only,
honestly,
not males. Is it because
honestly, it might just be because of like word of mouth and how
Yeah.
kind of how it's like an easy thing to make fun of for
Yeah.
people. How like, oh, you're a girl, you're a bad driver, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I guess it might just be word of mouth that kind of made this a big stereotype.
Well, and that's true too because, where I'm from, like I said, I was raised a large part in Southern Maryland where it wasn't Asians necessarily. It was kind of black people were prevalent over there. So, everybody would kind of make the old jokes. I mean, I had a neighbor that had a Confederate flag in his yard,
Mm-hmm.
So over there it was, I mean, on the west side or west coast, it's more Asians
Yeah.
and
Because
Hispanics
it's
that we make fun of. Not we make fun of, but
overall,
in general, the stereotypes.
yeah, they're more heard around over here than they are.
Hispanics have large families, and
Yeah.
they're Catholic, and Asians are bad drivers, but they're good at math and they're good at science. And it's kind of like where all these things come from is, kind of
depends on the origin
yeah,
of like.
it really does.
Because if you think about it, towards like World War II, I would say, or like World War One, the whole, like the Japanese people, they're commies, they're coming over.
Yeah,
It would bring over stereotypes and stuff like that, that would more like spread around easily, I guess, with these wars, bringing over all these people that want to come over here.
Yeah.
So it would make sense. That would be more on the West Coast than it would be more towards like middle of America, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so now that you have like a better understanding for these stereotypes and understand that they aren't exactly accurate, do you see like Chinese people in a different way, I guess you could say?
Well, I mean, me personally have never had an issue with, my husband driving, he yells at everybody. He does make comments about and this is just Asian in general, because we don't know their nationality, but he'll make comments about Asian women driving. And so, yeah, I get that we just don't know their culture and they're communists compared to us being a democracy. So there's a big difference there. So, and like you said, that's very interesting about the math, because I didn't know about that. So I just thought they were kind of started off early with their education.
Just because they're communists doesn't exactly mean that they're bad.
No, and I'm not saying that they're bad, but I was raised in a time frame where Bay of Pigs.
Oh, true. Because communism did bring about a lot of good things in China. Like it made it so that men can't leave their wives or whatever if they have a kid that's under a year old. That law was implemented, and it made it so that you can't have a marriage if you're under 18, which is a big thing that was happening, because males would pretty much like take little girls if they wanted to, because it's a very male what would be the word? Like
basically the males dominate.
Yeah, they're very, very male dominated country. So communism kind of brought about a lot of rules that made them less, I guess,
so they
free
were
to
more,
do whatever they want.
So they were more, back in the day, they were more kind of tribal.
They weren't tribal, I would say, because their technology is very
advanced. Sure.
But I guess there weren't a lot of like fair rules, I guess, that should be like implemented all over the country, so that people can't just take advantage of things. So just because they're communists, I wouldn't say that they're like inferior to us.
I'm not saying that but there is a different aspect of communism versus democracy, where communism is the good of the whole. Democracy is the good of you.
Oh, true. Individually.
Do you see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying. So
that's a big thing between, and the fact that, population-wise, they're at the top.
Exactly.
I know that, but we're right underneath them. So population-wise, if we were ever to worry about something happening, World War III coming up, it would be China that we would be worried about. Not North Korea, not Iraq, all them others, but if China were to, and it's a scary kind of thing, because they have so many people, so it's kind of, I think that maybe fear brings a lot on of all the things that Americans think about Chinese people. They're not bad, they're just different, and it's a fear.
So would you say that stereotypes are good or bad?
I'm not saying
because
that they're good at all.
Stereotypes
happen.
They happen because of
ignorance.
Exactly. And the fear of them being
And
different.
the fear.
Exactly.
There's ignorance, there's fear, there's what you're used to, and then you get what you're not used to.
Mm-hmm.
So you come in like me going from East Coast to West Coast. East Coast was all black people that we dealt with. Not we dealt with, but that was all the stereotypes over there. So then you come over here to the West Coast and it's all Asians and Hispanics that I never heard anything about.
So
And then I hear it because it's just, and then you start hearing it.
It's tossed around, yeah.
You hear something like, oh, Asian women can't drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the first time you get behind a car that looks like they're driving crazy, happen to see it's an Asian woman. Who knows if they're Filipino, Japanese, Chinese, whatever, Korean, and then you're like, oh yeah, I guess it's true, kind of thing. So it kind of depends, and that's all ignorance.
Honestly.
That's ignorance, and that's being like in a different area that you're not used to. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. So my last question is,
okay.
Has this interview overall improved your knowledge about Chinese people and their stereotypes?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Because not only through the interview, but from knowing, just chatting with you about, because you did have the experience, and I never had that experience. So it'd be, talking to somebody about a whole different culture, and they have their own culture, and I know.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, communism isn't great from a democratic
standpoint,
point of view, but compared to what they had before, it's helped them. So I think that's awesome, and the whole thing with the population and bad drivers, it's a stereotype that's probably never going to get done, like leave America.
Yeah.
It's always going to be there, but I get what you're saying about population wise.
Okay. So, thank you for talking to me.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Okay, so for the second interview, I'm here with
John Chase.
Okay, and I would like to know a little bit about your background and like your current career that you're in right now.
I'm in the satellite business,
Okay,
sales.
and can you tell me a bit about like your life and like a little bit about like how you got up to where you are right now? Like,
A lot of hard work. I started really low in the business, found a niche, and started growing it.
that's cool. Okay, so for the first question that has to do with Chinese stereotypes, I would like to know like maybe an example that you've heard of, like around like people talking about it, maybe.
Basically, that they all look the same.
Like they all have like
They all look the same. You can't tell one Asian from another. Really, it was just really tough.
I mean, there are like 56 different ethnic groups. Like that means like there's different. I mean, for like American, there's only American, but in China, since it's so big, there's different like provinces and there's different ways of like there can be different skin tones in China and there can be different like sizes. But the biggest thing that changes like our viewpoint on why they all look the same, one of the reasons is because of media. I mean, if you think about it, have you ever seen like a Chinese person in a movie that's like chubby?
Very few.
Exactly. I mean, there are chubby Chinese people.
Well, the ones that you see,
or obese people.
you think that they're like Japanese
Or like
or Samoan or something different. Yeah.
I mean, this will blow your mind, but one of the reasons why it might be a cognitive phenomenon called the other race effect. This means like that it might make it harder for other people of one race to readily like recognize or identify individuals of another. So if like you're white, for example, or if you're black then or African American, it might be harder for you to recognize like or it might be easier for you to see like white people being like the same. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, I can see people from South Africa and I can see people from Australia. They're white, but I don't know they're from that region either.
I mean,
Is
what
that
I'm
what you're
trying to
meaning?
say, what I'm trying to say is like, it's because we're not Chinese is the reason why we can't see that they're all the same. Like, does that make sense?
Or is it some reason that we see?
Reason
them
why we
all
see,
these-
yeah, that's
all
the
the
reason
same.
why we see them all the same. It's
Right, because all their
we're
eyes
not
are
Chinese.
really small.
I mean, the reason for that is because like, genetically they don't have the crease. Like you see how with my eyes, I have like a line above my eye.
Yeah.
like that line. They
Sure.
don't have that. It's because their genetics in like in China, they like for some reason they don't have that line. Even in China, it's actually like told to be like an beautiful part of like their culture. Like they even have this messed up thing where you can surgically put a line there.
Really adjust them a little bit.
Like even there's this like cheap little thing that you can buy in like a beauty store, which is like a glue that'll make it so that your like folds and like it'll stick together. So that's
Interesting.
It's pretty messed up that stereotypes will do that to people and like make it so that they don't feel like they're good enough. Like they have to actually do something to change their bodies. Which is,
They do work really hard.
yeah, it's pretty messed up in my opinion. That they're still getting scrutinized for something they can't even change. You can't change like what your eyes look like.
Of course not.
Then
Well, you can. There's plastic surgery.
I mean, yeah.
But I guess you would want to do that in your home country.
Well, yeah. Okay, so the second question is, how do you think media and television have affected these Chinese stereotypes? TV shows, movies, and stuff like that. Like, how have they affected like making Chinese stereotypes like more like known? Or,
They're easily to be made fun of because of the differences
I mean,
from our country.
like,
Is
could
that
you give me
what
an example of like a movie where they're made fun of, or like a TV show?
Well, even some of the older stuff, like Bruce Lee things, when the Chinese people come in, I mean, they make it look like, you know, funny and different things, and they make them look so different. Where Bruce Lee being, you know, the American, it seems different. Anyway.
Yeah, it's messed up. I mean, have you ever heard of like stereotypes that like, alright, blooper man.
Okay, you're gonna edit
It's
it
like my
whatever you
only,
want.
yeah, it's my second like time ever interviewing someone.
Whatever
so,
you're doing, just go.
I mean,
You can edit anything you want. That's the cool part.
yeah. Do you have any other stereotypes that you've heard of, like maybe, like at all?
Of
Of
Asian
of
people or Chinese people?
and Asian people.
they eat a lot of rice.
Well, one of the reasons for that might be because it's so easy for them to grow rice there. I mean, when I lived there in China, the mountains just rice, just rice plains and fields everywhere. It's so easy to grow there
We
because
call them rice paddies, right?
yeah,
That's what
I
we
mean,
call
you
them,
call them that.
right? But they're rice
But
fields,
they're rice
really,
fields
just like
because there's just
we're growing different things.
so many there, and it's just so easy to grow it there, and it goes with everything. They put rice with everything, and just a bowl of rice with anything on top of it. I mean, they put it with every meal. So
I always wonder how come they're so skinny, based on they eat all this rice and we're not allowed to eat carbs here in this country.
I mean,
It drives me nuts.
one of the reasons for that might be because their metabolism is so fast. I mean,
I want that.
that might. I mean, it's not. Is it genetic? Metabolism?
I would say a metabolism. is
because my
genetic.
dad's really skinny, so that might be why I'm really skinny.
Well, no, I mean there's different things, but if a whole culture
Yeah.
has that type of metabolism,
That would make sense. So, my fifth question is, now that you have like a better understanding for like why these stereotypes, like have a more knowledge on these stereotypes. I wouldn't say like a better understanding, but like more knowledge
I
around.
have a
these
better
stereotypes.
understanding definitely about the slanted eye thing,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting.
Do you see like Chinese people like any differently? I would say.
Depends on which Chinese restaurant I'm in. I mean, if they can communicate, it's no problem. It's when they can't communicate that makes it hard. And they can say the same thing over and over again. I don't understand it.
English is the hardest language to learn. Like overall, of like all.
Well,
the
because we have
languages in the
so
whole-
many words that mean the exact same thing.
and there's so many accents you could get wrong. Like you can say "why" in so many different ways.
You know, you did ask me about a movie
Mhm.
that did that, and I can recall a movie called Gung Ho. You ever heard of it?
I've heard of it, yeah.
I think they were Chinese people. I'm not really positive, but I think they were. And they're building cars in Detroit. And the Chinese think that they can come in and prove that they can build the cars so much faster, okay, than the Americans can, which they can. For one reason and one reason only. They're so disciplined. I mean, I don't think, like in this country,
Okay. One of the reasons when I lived in China,
yeah.
the respect level that you need to have is to such a high degree.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You don't have that here.
No, we're so lazy selfish and you need to have the American dream for
Right, it's
yourself.
about yourself.
Yourself, yeah.
Where
so
they are
individual.
more, yeah.
But in China, it's more of like a community type of thing. We grow the crops together so we can all eat together. We build the city together so we can all like grow businesses together.
You see it in sports. I see it in sports like gymnastics.
I mean,
in golf, watching them golf. They're so disciplined on what they do and try and find this perfection in it because I think they gain more respect by the more perfect they are, perfection they are. And maybe it's not that, it's just that they have respect for everything that they do.
Mostly,
and want to do it the best they can.
I mean, it's ingrained in their culture because of the way like each of them are raised. It's part of their culture. Like when I grew up there and when I went to school, if you ever backtalk a teacher, dude, that you're done. But if you back up, it's funny here. It's like it's a joke here if you back.
Well, it shouldn't be though.
I mean, it should.
That's the problem.
TV shows do it though. If you think about it, it's funny here if you do it. But in China, that's like no, you would never backtalk a teacher.
Well, everybody here thinks they're a
backtalk your
comedian.
parents. Yeah, I mean, they might take themselves a little too seriously in China. That might be the reason why. I mean, I don't. I mean, they
I think it is a serious thing though.
but
That's the stereotype that I see. Respect 100% at all times. You know? And I've never seen a Chinese person. I'm doing the wrong side, huh?
No, we're allowed to talk.
Yeah.
Like, it
But
doesn't-
no, I mean, the respect level is big, and their dedication to whatever they're doing, I think is huge.
Okay, so
So you've totally changed my mind.
thank you. So do you think that stereotypes are overall good or bad? I mean, what you were talking about with how they're respected, I guess that stereotype could be good for like many different reasons. For like whether they're trying to have a good profession or whether just the respect level that they have for like even strangers.
I personally think that stereotyping people is prejudging them, like judging a book based on its cover. I'm not gonna like it because of what I see, and there's so much of that going on. There's good stereotypes, you know, that are good. Most of them are negative, and I think that here, especially with the Chinese Asian culture, we want to make fun of it based on, you know, all the bad stereotypical things instead of thinking about the good ones.
Okay. So, thank you for having this interview with me. Overall, I think I did pretty well in executing my goal in changing their minds about their outlook on like Chinese people and why these stereotypes are wrong, and pretty much letting them have more knowledge on the subject instead of them just understanding what people have told them and what the media has told them and what TV shows and movies have told them. So overall, I think I did fairly well in explaining why these stereotypes were wrong and putting some research behind why Chinese stereotypes and Asian stereotypes overall are mostly incorrect and why they have lasting bad effects on the Chinese culture and Chinese people overall. Blooper man, you can say why in so many different ways, I guess, if you think about it like
Porque?
why or why.
Or
You
porque?
can be serious, yeah. Or porque, words.
No, I'm just teasing Spanish. I'm just messing with you. Just trying to.
Trying to be serious.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
And they took care of people, so.
Awesome. Nice blooper there. Okay, so
how about this one?
that'll work.
Here. Let's get rid of that box because it's flimsy. It's a little tilted. It's tilted though.
What? Are you ready? just wish it would just stay up. Like a piece. Yeah.
All right, man, that's good. That was really tough.
Thanks, Deeks, for barking the whole time.
Yeah, no
and
kidding.
when we're trying.